everybody, I'm Rick Beato. On today's episode, we're going to talk about some analog drum recording hacks. So these contraptions I have back here, I actually had a post on my Instagram page with this set up. This is an old school trick that we used to use, me and my assistant GL, who's over here, is helping me out today, when we had a snare that wasn't really exciting, or when we programmed drums and wanted them to sound more realistic. And this is probably what you're going to use them for. I know a lot of you don't have rooms that you can record drums in, or you don't even have the budget, but this is a way to make your digital drum tracks, your MIDI drum tracks, sound more realistic. So what we're going to do is we're going to blend these in with the actual digital drums. So I have a couple basic programs that I've put together, a couple basic beats, and I'm going to show you how we're going to reamp them. The first thing we're going to start with is the snare drum. I'm going to show you how this works. We're sending the snare drum through this speaker here, which is suspended over the snare. This is a Ludwig Black Beauty. It's mic'd just like I would mic a snare with a top and bottom mic here. SM57, we're EQing it in the control room. We'll go in there in a minute. But the blast of the actual programmed snare drum hitting the snare sounds just like a drummer hitting it with a stick. But it sounds real because it is real, and it will add that acoustic sound. It makes your snare not have the exact same hit every time. There's that variance because the air hitting it, it just never sounds the same, so it sounds more realistic. We're going to do the same thing with the kick drum, but let's start with the snare first. Okay, I have the kick and the snare playing right now. I'm going to turn the speaker on so you can hear what the snare sounds like. Check it out. You can change things on the snare. For example, you can adjust the snare wires, you can move the mics around, you can swap the snare out. This happens to be a Black Beauty. I like the sound of it. I've got my snare drum throw here where I can adjust the wires as it's playing. Made them more looser there. I'm going to tighten them up. That's pretty good there. You can also do things where you can deaden the snare more. The open sound makes it sound more realistic. Now I'm going to turn on the kick drum. Okay, so here we have a Ludwig 22 by 14 inch kick mic'd with an Electro Voice RE20. I've got the speaker on the other side of it, so once again that speaker is going to be the drummer and it's going to hit the kick by itself. So check it out. You can change the snare drum tuning, anything. Swap the snare out. I could be tuning it as it's being played. But what we've done is we listen to it and it blends really well with the drum samples that we have there. So now we're going to go back to the control room. We're going to record them down and we're going to listen to what they sound like together. Okay, the mic pre's that we're using, we have the snare top going through this Neve 1073. We have the snare bottom going through that. The phase is flipped so that it sounds proper together, where it doesn't sound out of phase. The polarity is flipped, actually, is what I should say. And then the kick drum is going through this Neve 1066. I have some EQ on them, and once again, I did it to make sure that they blend nicely with the samples. What I want is I want to add some roominess to the samples so they sound more realistic. They don't sound fake. This will give you an analog sound. I also then have gone into the computer and I have some compression on the actual tracks themselves. I have a compressor on the snare and I have a compressor on the kick. For this first beat, the snare I have up right now, the Black Beauty, is a little high pitched, so I want to have a lower pitch snare, so I'm going to bring out my Ludwig Superphonic and swap it out right now. Okay, let's check out the basic beat that I have programmed here without the samples. Here we go. This is what it sounds like. I've got 3 instances of superior drums, one with a kick, one with a snare, one with a hat. Now I'm going to blend in the live samples that we had. I'll put the snare in first. Here we go. I bounced it down, as you can see right here. Now here's with a kick also.
You can EQ these. I hear a little bit of a ring in this snare here. So I can go and grab an EQ like this. I can actually go in and grab that offending frequency here. And tighten the Q up. There it is, it's gone. So here's what it sounds like without the snare. Here's without the kick. That's it's no live kick and snare there. Now, here's the kick by itself. I can also put a plug-in here on that will put a gate on it and shorten it a little bit. Tighten it up just a little bit. Nice. Here's the other beat that we had that's more like the immigrant song. Check it out. This is a totally different snare drum. Let me take the EQ off of it. Here's the kick drum. Tighten that up a little bit with a gate. Take the samples off. That's without the reamp drums in. Let's hear it again with them. I'm gonna meet the kick. It really needs that. That's with no gate. With no snare. You'll notice that these snare hits all sound a little different because it's an analog snare. Since I recorded the kick and the snare at the same time, I have bleed from the kick drum in there, but I could have recorded them separately. I just didn't happen to do it. I wanted them to be recorded at the same time. But you could really isolate the sounds that way and have even more control. Now, don't forget, you can also EQ these things. I could take this kick drum and go. Like that. I could shelve the low end a little bit here on it. Watch. Without it. Gate it. Without it. That really adds a lot of tone and makes it sound far more natural. If I spent any time actually programming the beats, it would sound even better.
So there you have it. This is a recording hack to make your digital drums sound more realistic, more analog. That's all for now. Please subscribe here to my Everything Music YouTube channel. Remember, if you're a new subscriber, ring the bell. If you're interested in the Beato book, go to my website at www.rickbeato.com. Follow me on Instagram at rickbeato1. And if you want to support the channel even more, become a member of the Beato Club. Thanks for watching.